I've been fascinated by West Island ever since I first fished the waters off Rhode Island's Secaunet Point with legendary guide Charlie Soares in 1996. During that trip, Soares explained how the 3 stone pillars on the island were all that remained of the West Island Club, an exclusive fishing club that existed from 1864 to 1906. West Island is part of an outcropping of granite ledges and islets just south of Secaunet Point in Little Compton, Rhode Island. The island is currently managed by the Secaunet Preservation Association, and boaters and paddlers can explore it at their own risk. Never one to let a little risk stand in his way, my friend and underwater videographer Mike Laptu arranged to visit the island in a pair of kayaks, which he transported to the sand and gravel launch ramp on Secaunet Harbor, our jumping off spot for the short cruise to West Island. I say cruise rather than paddle because the ocean kayaks we used featured electric trolling motors powered by small 12-volt batteries. At first it felt a bit like cheating, but that didn't last long. In fact, I have to say it was pretty relaxing, and the hands-free steering made it easy to shoot video.
Turns on the dime. The real beauty is it has reverse. Sometimes.
After launching our electric yaks, we headed through the harbor, rounded the jetty, and pointed our bows due south, passing some boaters who apparently didn't bother to read the Coast Guard capacity label on their skiff. You're all gonna die! Shortly, we were passing Secaunet Point Light, which was undergoing a major restoration. Then weaved our way through a gauntlet of rocks and reefs until, suddenly, we were there. Well, we've anchored the kayaks out on the east side of West Island. This is probably where the islanders had their dock. The larger vessels bringing guests from the mainland would anchor up in the protected basin right here behind the islands, and then take a rowboat in to the dock, then go ashore, go up to the main club and have a little refreshments, and then get ready for fishing the bass stands the next day. Our first mission was to check out the location of the former bass stands, but we'd have to make our way through a gauntlet of gulls, as West Island is now home to a fantastically noisy and smelly seagull rookery.
Open your mouth. Look, they've lost their ability to fly. They just run. Similar to the Galapagos Islands, these birds, according to Richard Attenborough, have basically lost their fear of humans and are unable to fly. That's why they're so camouflaged. And as you can see,
Well, this was probably one of the areas that the members of the West Island Club would come to fish for stripers. They would fish from tall wooden platforms mounted on long, spindly metal rods or stakes driven into the rock. And these were called bass stands. And what the members would do, they'd draw lots every morning to see who got the best stands. And then they'd come out to the stands with a guide, or gilly, they were called, who would chum the waters with lobster tails. Then they'd cast out a lobster bait, a hook bait, into the whitewater zone. And that's how they would catch stripers and often bluefish as well. Next, we made our way inland to the remains of the club. Making our way through the undergrowth to the Three Sisters. Hopefully we won't step on any gulls. Well, this is it right here. One of the last 3 stone columns, all that remains of the old West Island Club, which burned to the ground in 1929, and then the hurricane of 38 sort of cleared everything out on this island except for the 3 stone columns that you see here. Continuing to the extreme western part of the island, we found ourselves scaling a massive granite outcropping. but were rewarded with a magnificent view of Sakonnet Point, the river mouth, and the open Atlantic.
Hey, there goes our electric kayaks.
Well, I'm standing in the spot on the giant granite cliff where it's believed that Judge Daniel Fearing, one of the original West Island Club members, used to take his daily restorative dives into the icy Atlantic Ocean. He used to do it naked, and I'm not about to either get naked or take this dive. I have to admit that wandering around the gull-infested island got a bit creepy, especially given some of the more unexpected discoveries. Well, among all the seagull bones you'll find on this island, we came across this specimen, full of jagged teeth. If this is a creature that's evolved on this island over the last few decades or so, I think it's about time we leave and get back in the kayaks.
The seagulls here are pretty big, but they're tasty.
Well, as you can see, there's not a whole lot on West Island these days, except for, well, a lot of seagulls, a lot of seagull guano, and a lot of seagull bones. Hard to imagine that a century ago there was a big clubhouse here, an outbuilding, an annex, a vegetable garden, and chickens and goats and pigs and all kinds of stuff. Well, that concludes our little tour of West Island. It's an interesting place to come visit for a little bit, but I'm telling you, you're not going to want to hang out here for very long, because frankly, the smell of seagull poop is going to make you nauseous, like it is with me. Driven off the island by aggressive gulls and their even more aggressive smell, we beat a hasty retreat back to Sakonnet Harbor. Oh, and kayaking purists will be gratified to note that we were forced to use good old-fashioned arm-driven propulsion to return home, as our undercharged batteries had given out. All in all, a small price to pay for visiting a hallowed, historic fishing site.
Thanks for watching BoatOka.com.